Hi everyone! Hope you're doing great. We're glad to start our webinar right now. My name is Alice. I'm a senior recruiter at Jobs for Editors and I'll be your host for today.
And my name is Natalie. I'm an expert editor with Jobs for Editors, and I will tell you about the basics of editing today.
We would now need you to tell us whether everything's just fine with the sound and video, whether you can hear and see us, whether if everything is okay. Please simply write us some messages and send us some plus signs so we could understand whether everything is just fine. Guys, we're looking for your signs. Please let us know if everything's just fine. Okay, great. So let's start. Let me just upload the presentation. It may take several seconds. Great, you can hear us and see us. Okay. So I would also like you to make your video full screen because at a certain stage there will be a slide you'll have to read the text in order to be updated regarding what we're talking about. Also, you're welcome to address all of the questions to our the chat, because we have an operator who'll be answering them, and some of the most interesting and important ones will be passed to us and we will gladly answer them, but after we finish our speaking part regarding the presentation. Okay, great. So let me introduce myself a little bit more. First of all, English is my second language, same as Natalie's. Therefore, I would like to apologize for both of us for any kind of mistakes we can make. Please do consider this is the first time we're going live. We're a bit nervous, so we need your support. We need your likes. Nevertheless, let's move on. I hold a position of a senior recruiter at Jobs for Editors for almost 2 years now, and I've hired about 150 managing editors for these years, as managing editor is the position I'm in charge of. Now I would like you to know a little bit more about the company. As Jobs for Editors, we are an editing agency which provides services within editing for almost 12 years now. Our clients are mainly business customers and individuals based in the United States, in Canada, Great Britain, and any other countries where English is their main language. Basically, people use our services when they feel the lack of the time, I don't know, the necessary writing skills or the preferred knowledge of the language, or when they simply feel it would be better to entrust the quality of their text to professionals, as we are professionals. Sorry. So we provide services, editing services, basically in English-speaking, for customers based in English-speaking countries. We deal with different topics, like, I don't know, starting from digital marketing, something about SEO. Also, we edit some kind of speeches, business plans, and some academic papers also. Let's move on. So as it can be seen from the map, we hire freelancers from all over the world, basically lots of countries, actually. The great majority of freelancers are based in the United States, in Canada, in some countries of Europe, and in Asia, the countries like India, Pakistan, and Thailand also. As we hire freelancers from all over the world, the working hours of our employees are adjusted to their time zones. In addition to hiring editors from all over the world, we actually put a lot of effort into continuous education of our freelancers. This is actually the first time we decided to go public and to share our knowledge with a broader audience. And for this, we've developed our Editing 101 mini presentation. Hope you will find it useful, which will get you some also hands-on experience and will help you to kickstart your career in editing. Therefore, I would like to invite back our expert editor, Natalie, who will introduce you the world of editing right now. Just a few seconds, guys.
Okay. Hello, guys. So just I'm waiting, just as we're waiting for our presentation to download. So, as you probably remember, my name is Natalie, and I have been working with Jobs for Editors for 4 years. And I can definitely say that this was one of the best decisions I have ever made. After graduating the university, I tried many jobs that would allow me to put my English degree to good use. I tried teaching, translating, and even did a few jobs just here and there, like some odd jobs, until later when I was offered a job as a freelance editor. At first, it was much harder than anything I had tried before. But already after the end of my probation, I was already comfortable with my new duties and the deadlines. And in fact, I fell in love with my flexible schedule. And I can definitely say that I would not want to go back to a fixed schedule. So I would not change my job for anything else. So if you're seriously mulling over over the idea of becoming a freelance editor, let's see what it takes and what benefits you can get in return. First of all, in your questions before the webinar, just before when you registered for the webinar, some of you asked the question about the difference between proofreading and editing. So, as you probably can infer, proofreading presupposes correcting of minor mistakes, such as grammatical errors, punctuation errors, maybe some cases of wrong word use, and so on, while editing presupposes more profound work with the text. So today we'll talk more about editing. And first of all, let's find out who the editors are and what they do. So, editors are not just fanatical comma cleaners. We do a great lot of vital tasks, in addition to correcting spelling, punctuation, and grammar. First and foremost, editors work as readers' advocates to ensure text comprehension. Some writers can be easily carried away while composing their articles, and they often indulge into fancy language and unnecessary verbosity. So editor is the one who is there to establish communication between the author of the text and the reader. So I'll move my screen, sorry. So, okay. So with my face here, for you to see the text, which was composed by George Orwell. It is a famous example of logorrhea, which is unnecessary verbosity. It was composed by George Orwell on purpose to show how good writing should not look like. So you can just have a look through it and see those ridiculous word combinations. So let's move on. Editors are always there for profound fact-checking. We assess every idea critically and make sure that it makes perfect sense. For example, in the sentence you see here, the author has obviously misused the statistics. So I'll read the sentence to you just to get the point. Men in Hong Kong must be worse drivers than women as 70% of drivers involved in accidents are men. So the editor's job here is to find out what percentage of the total drivers are men, and somehow to add this information to the sentence for the statement to be credible, because without this information the sentence is rather far-fetched. So we don't know what the percentage of the total drivers are men in Hong Kong. So of course, editors check the content of the text, and they make sure that all important points are addressed. So our customers often leave specific instructions, and editors are to ensure that nothing has been left out and that all important points have been covered. In the modern world, sorry again for my face, which stands in the way. Here, we'll move it here. Okay, so in the modern world, it is important to remain politically correct and embrace diversity in all aspects of life, and writing is not an exclusion. Editors are in charge of removing sexist, racist, or other discriminatory language from texts. So, as you probably know, sexist language is a language that encourages discrimination on the basis of gender, and it can discourage people from pursuing their dreams or careers or supporting someone. And sexist language also offends people since they find themselves excluded. Same goes for racist language or other types of biased language. But some people actually cannot track bias in their own speech. So, for example, let's consider the phrase which was uttered by Neil Armstrong as a comment to his landing on the moon, which was, it dates back to 1969, when the problem of diversity was not it was important, but it was not as acute in the society. So this sentence goes: "That's one small step for a man and one giant leap for mankind." So in this case, to make this sentence less sexist, we can replace the word man with something more neutral, like human or a person. And the sentence, the variant looks like that. So that's one small step for a person, and one giant leap for humankind. And so Neil Armstrong looks rather puzzled, but for this sentence to appear in the reputable source, it has to be devoid of sexism. So that's the way we solve this problem. So let's move on again. Moving the camera here. Okay. So some professionals just like using jargon and buzzwords in their writing. Probably they do it to appear more professional and to impress their readers. But actually, we editors often have to make the text more clearer to the wider audience. That's why, for this reason, we have to get rid of jargon or explain why it must be kept. For example, let's consider the sentence here, which appears here. So we need to come up with a game-changing new product, put a SWAT team together, and let's have an ideation session. Ideation session is a phrase which is not commonly used. It's rather like fancy or like a buzzword, and we can replace ideation with the brainstorming, and the sentence will become much better. Okay. So another problem we often have to deal with is the citations. You know that it's virtually impossible to write a good article without without borrowing some ideas from other external sources. But of course, to avoid plagiarism issues, we have to cite all the sources properly. There are two ways in which people can misattribute the borrowed ideas. Some people can use people can use borrowed ideas as their own without any citations, while others just simply put random citations or just attribute the phrases to someone who has never uttered them. For example, many phrases or many quotes are attributed to such famous people as William Shakespeare. As you can see, he looks rather offended because he didn't say some ridiculous things which are often attributed to him, and many other famous people who just are widely known and renowned. So, just to not to offend William Shakespeare, please cite your sources properly, or if you work as an editor, make sure all quotes are properly attributed. So, now that we have talked about the main areas of editor's responsibility, let's see what editor's work can give you in return. Actually, it's a very rewarding job. So now we will discuss the perks of becoming a freelance editor. First of all, you can work anywhere and anytime, which means that as a freelance editor, you will never run for the bus again or get stuck in a traffic jam unless you're on your way to the airport, so that you can spend the next 3 months working from a beachside villa, enjoying your time there and working at the same time. And of course, you can work anytime. You will have deadlines, so no one says that you won't have any. So you will have deadlines, but at the same time, it doesn't matter for your client whether you work during the night or early in the morning, or probably you decided to have a late night snack at your desk. So it's pretty convenient because you can make up your own schedule and follow it. So, as an editor, you will also have a great chance to read many articles on various topics. They will range from business to literature, medicine, any other important and fascinating topics. So in a month or two, be ready to impress your friends with very specific facts, like, for example, the new marketing strategy of Amazon, or, for example, if you deal with literature a lot, you will know everything about imagery in Ezra Pound's poems. So it only depends on the topics you're going to deal with. So it's a great opportunity, as far as my experience has proven. Since you have to spot inaccuracies and make amendments in the text you're going to work with, and it's a key part of your job, so you will start noticing things that other people miss. And soon the position will enable you to develop Sherlock Holmes-like powers of observation, and you will notice such things that other people will never notice. And again, that's a good thing to impress your friends with. Cool. So, and there are many people who are sticklers for grammar. So I think there are many of such grammarians, strict grammarians among you, and I'm as well. I'm such person as well. So, do you sometimes feel that you can't help correcting your other people's mistakes, and they get annoyed because of that? So now you will have a great opportunity to realize your teaching potential, because you will have to communicate with the authors of the texts and provide your feedback, comment on their mistakes, especially the ones that relate to content. You have to explain what has to be changed, and that's why you will have to teach them, actually. So that's a great way to become a teacher in addition to becoming an editor. So it will, and moreover, it will bring you money and will save your friends from embarrassment. That was actually my main point. So, next thing that we are talking to discuss is the funny moments you would enjoy with your writers while working as an editor. Sometimes, the writers make a lot of funny mistakes when they write their texts in the middle of the night, burning the midnight oil. So sometimes a misplaced comma or maybe a handling modifier. Later I'll explain to some of you what it is. To some of you who don't know what this mistake actually is. Or maybe a typo. So all of these mistakes can make your day because they're extremely funny sometimes. For example, you can see this sentence that I have taken from an article in Marketing recently. So it goes as, it is very interesting that KFC named its new sandwich Double Colonel after Colonel Sanders, a popular character in the HBO's Game of Thrones series to target fans. So, actually, the sentence doesn't make much sense to me, but it didn't make much sense before I Googled what was actually in common with the HBO series, Game of Thrones, you know it, and Colonel Sanders. But it turned out that the same actor starred both in the Game of Thrones and in a KFC commercial. That's probably was. So sometimes Google helps you to solve such professional problems, which seem extremely puzzling at the first sight. Okay, so now that we have discussed some specific perks of becoming an editor, now let's move on to the process of editing, which can become challenging, but at the same time quite engaging. And to ensure the latter, to make it easier, you should follow just our guide, like step-by-step editing guide. You know that when you are going to cook something, usually you use a recipe. So there is also a recipe for editing, which goes as so. First of all, you do all things step by step. So in editing, you should check content, then you move on to structure, then correct style and grammar errors, and finally fix the formatting. And so these are the main steps of editing, and now let's talk about them in more detail. So first of all, content. Okay, so you know that strong arguments and correct use of evidence make the meat of your text. It is important to make sure that the text you edit gives the customer exactly what he or she needs. Thus, it is important to sorry, I'll drink some water. So, an experienced editor will always check the instruction first and then ensure that all questions are addressed adequately and that the focus is placed on the right aspects and that viable conclusions are drawn. First of all, check that everything is fine with the content, with what you're actually talking about. So then we move on to the structure, which is the skeleton of the text. Without it, ideas would simply be scrambled around a piece of writing, and it would be impossible to understand the author's point. So let's imagine, again, getting to the topic of food. Maybe I'm hungry today, but again, somehow I always relate to food. We imagine the text in the form of a savory hamburger. So a good hamburger would always have a top bun, which is the introduction, a clear introduction, I should say. So in this part of the text, you will have a hook sentence, which is something to draw the reader's attention to. Then you would provide some background information on the topic you're going to discuss, and finally the main claim which you're going to support throughout the paper, or throughout the text. Sorry, and in this case, this statement should be really specific because it should present the main idea and make it really strong. then the thesis should be supported in the arguments which are provided in the main body of the text, and make your lettuce, tomatoes, and meat. So to make your hamburger tasty, you should make sure that all these arguments are supported with proper evidence, with good, correctly interpreted statistics, good life examples, and so on. So just it all depends on the topic and how the this is well, and what evidence you find suitable. So finally, there should be a conclusion, which is the bottom bar of the text, and it will wrap everything up. At this point, you have to make sure that you again remind the reader of what the main claim was. In other words, you have to repeat the thesis, but you do not reiterate it like word to word, rather reword it and put it there. Then you briefly remind the reader about the main arguments that were mentioned in the body of the text, and finally provide an afterthought, which is something for your reader to just to stay with, to take away from the text. That's how it works. Now, having ensured that that the paper has strong and well-structured content, we've already done the most of the work. And that's the time to proofread the text for grammar and stylistic mistakes, and ensure that it flows well by adding the necessary transitions among the ideas and so on. So that's the time for the editor to show the feel for language and to tackle the weird but common errors that most of the writers make, especially when they're in a hurry and try to put their thoughts down to paper, especially when they slip out of their mind all the time. So you know that if you have ever written anything, so you know how hard it is. So you should be understandable and just try to do your best at this point. So in this part of your work, you will deal with many common mistakes, such as, for example, lack of subject-predicate agreement, wordiness, tautology, redundancy, maybe some misplaced modifiers, many wrong vocabulary choices, lots of stuff actually. And of course, here you will meet Mr. Dangling Modifier. I'll briefly remind you what it is. It's actually when the participial phrase, it can come either at the beginning of the sentence. Here it is upon entering the doctor's office. A skeleton caught my attention, so upon entering the doctor's office is a participial phrase. And it if it doesn't relate to the subject of the main clause, it creates a mistake called a dangling modifier. So it is unclear who entered the doctor's office actually. So it seems that a skeleton entered the doctor's office. And this creates this ridiculous mistake here. Further on, we often come across the mistakes, such a mistake as missing sentence members. So there are many clumsy sentences where important sentence members are missing. Sometimes it can be a verb, or sometimes even a subject. So in this cartoon, you can see that the mother is talking on the phone with her daughter's boyfriend, and she is pretty disappointed because the boyfriend doesn't use verbs in his sentences. So that's the pun of this joke, and it makes a lot of sense when you are working as an editor. And finally, also quite a common mistake, which is a misused apostrophe. Here in this cartoon, you can see that an exclamation mark and a question mark just is complaining to the question mark about another apostrophe which turned out to be too possessive. So in your work as editors, you can come across many cases of the use of misused apostrophes as well. Some of not only possessive ones, but in other contexts, in other cases as well. So that's also a mistake, a minor mistake, but it should be given due attention. Okay, now that we have come across the basics of proofreading, we'll move on to formatting. Formatting is the last but not the least aspect of editing, and it actually boils down to the fact that to whether the text is perceived well. So a text should have a clear layout, adequate spacing, indentation, and as a rule, formatting requirements are provided by the customers in the instructions. So the best thing you can do about it is to follow the requirements precisely. So. Now that we have discussed the steps of editing in general, I suggest that we move on to something more specific, to some practical task. So let's take a look at this text. So this is this paragraph taken from a Goodreads review on a novel by Horace Walpole, and this novel is called The Castle of Otranto. So the writer was supposed to reflect on the novel and discuss its themes, but instead he simply retold the plot. Even though the paragraph begins with the correct idea, which is reading the book is enriching, educative, and entertaining, as it mixes inexplicable events with ordinary happenings, and this narration, this text quickly turns into some sort of stream of consciousness narration, where the writer has seemingly lost sight of what he was going to talk about initially. Editing this paragraph would be actually pointless, because you haven't read this novel, or you simply don't have enough time to rewrite everything, and actually there is no point in it. So as editors, we don't need to rewrite it, and all we have to do is to ask the author to revise this paragraph, explaining why the content is inadequate. So you simply send it back to the author and point out what problems there are, which can be fixed. So let's move on to the structure. So I hope you can see me well. So the structure, again, as I have already mentioned, is a very important aspect, but which most inexperienced editors often disregard, as they concentrate on proofreading and for grammar and stylistic errors. But again, I repeat myself already, but I have to mention that it is a very important point. So here you can see a concluding paragraph from the Goodreads review. Actually here the writer has remembered that he was supposed to write a review, and he decided to provide some evaluative remarks at the very end of this review. But as some of you probably already know, the concluding paragraph, the conclusion, is not the place for new ideas. So it's the place where we remind the reader of everything he or she has already dealt with, but we do not add anything new. So again, we have to send this text back to the author and indicate that the structure of the concluding paragraph was wrong, and to ask him or her to introduce the necessary corrections. So now let's move on to grammar and style. My favorite part, actually, because it always brings some surprises. So here we have a couple of sentences that we actually can edit ourselves. I have highlighted the two types of mistakes here. The first one was redundancy, highlighted in yellow, and the wrong verb forms. So the verb forms were used in the wrong way, actually. So these mistakes are highlighted in green. I will read the incorrect sentences to you first. So the novel was written in 1764 by Horace Walpole. However, the claims that the novel is as old as the Crusades has debunked after the author admitted having fictitiously created both the story and his pseudonym. So, to me, this sentence makes little sense because the verbs were used incorrectly. As you already have seen, we have deleted the surname of the author because it was already mentioned in the first sentence. So actually, there is no point in using it for the second time because it is clear who the author of the novel was. But now let's move on to the verbs. So I would concentrate first on the verb has debunked. So let's see what's wrong with it. So it says that the claims that the novel is as old as the Crusades has debunked after blah blah blah. So in this case, we have to change the voice of the verb and also the number, because the subject of the sentence is claims, and it is a plural noun, and that's why the verb should be used in plural and in the passive voice, because the action was claims were they were just the patient of the action, so to say. So they are just so the verb should be turned into the passive voice, like was debunked. Since all these actions relate to the past, there is no point in using the present simple tense. The verb is, which should be turned into was. And finally, the verb admitted, again, is used in the wrong tense because the action happened before another past action here. So first, the author admitted having fictitiously created both the story and his pseudonym, and then the claims about the novel were debunked. So in this case, we have to use the past perfect tense form. The correct version of the sentence, with all the mistakes eliminated, will sound the following way. The novel was written in 1764 by Horace Walpole. However, the claims that the novel was as old as the Crusades were debunked after the author had admitted having fictitiously created both the story and his pseudonym. So that's finally the correct way to the correct version of this sentence. And now we are moving to formatting, which is also a very important aspect, although many editors who climb to the, who have already corrected this, all the content issues and structural mistakes, and then finally the proofread the text. They sometimes disregard some minor formatting mistakes, but at the same time, it's not the way to go, definitely, if you want to become an expert editor. Let's take a look at this text. So, the required formatting of the text can vary depending on the purpose of the text. So there are specific formatting conventions for manuscripts, for screenplays, for legal documents, for academic papers and theses, and other types of texts. However, most texts require proper indentation of paragraphs. So you see that indentation is missing in this text. Also, we have to capitalize notional words in titles. The notional words are the ones that carry the meaning, not the function words, but the notional ones, namely in this title, these are the review and novel. So these are nouns. So these have to be capitalized. And also, if you mention a book title anywhere, according to most conventions, you have to italicize the title of the book. And of course, it is important to remove any extra spaces between words or sentences or paragraphs. So in this case, you see there are extra spaces between sentences, like 2 blue dots, which should, instead of 1. And there is an extra interval or space between the paragraphs. You can also remove it. You can see it here, but it will be removed soon. So, and this is the correctly formatted text. You see we have provided, we indented each paragraph, removed the extra spaces between words, sentences, and paragraphs, and we have fixed the title of this text. So we have capitalized the word review, the word novel, and italicized the title of the book. And voila, we have a very, very beautiful, properly formatted text. And we can send it to our customer, probably, or to the author. Okay, so I hope this small presentation was useful for you. So you can leave your feedback in the chat window if you like it. And if you feel that you have if this job is just for you, if you have a passion for English language, if you like to correct other people's mistakes, and if you really take pride in your good English, so I think this job is just for you. And you should join us, Jobs for Editors, in Twitter, in Facebook, and in LinkedIn. And just to be updated about our following presentations. So we are planning to have a series of webinars or presentations maybe on various topics related to editing. And for now, we are proud to announce that we have posted the Editor Starter Kit on our website. So now you're welcome to visit the Jobs for Editors website and find it there. Or if you will be, so this presentation will be sent to you a bit later as a follow-up. So there if this yellow star, will be clickable, and you will find the Editor Starter Kit there. So now, thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, I will gladly answer them. Okay, so I have the first questions. How to pass a critique test? So, I'm not sure what you meant by the critique test actually, but I think you are asking about our entry tests at Jobs for Editors. So, you should probably, it's for this you have to be quite, just to know what, for example, redundancy is, what Dandling modifier is, or any other types of mistakes, and a lot of, and you will, yes, if you go to our Editor Starter Kit, you will find all the information there. Just what you have to do is simply to look through the Editor Starter Kit, make sure you are cognizant of all the aspects described there, and that you can easily spot them in the text and correct those mistakes. And that's probably the sure way to pass our test, because it's actually quite a good one. And of course, if you have, it's very important to have a linguistics. Okay, it's not the most important aspect, because we are working with many people who lack linguistic education, but instead they have technical education. Still, they are very good at editing and at language, and have a very good command of language. But still, linguistics education, of course, will give you a priority, because you already taught how to deal with the mistakes. You know what they are, what they look like, how they should be corrected, and so on. So that's probably the secret. So another question from you. So it's sorry for just the handwriting. I have been working as a freelance writer for 4 years. I want to move ahead. How do I start editing career? So there are actually many ways. So first of all, you can practice editing your friends' texts, or maybe you have kids who study at school and you correct their mistakes and you explain those mistakes to them. You can also apply for one of our vacancies at Jobs for Editors, and pass the test, pass the sample, the editing sample, and then you can become an editor with us. But first of all, of course, I would suggest starting from taking small editing jobs to see how it goes and whether you even like it. You will gain some experience, and then you will know for sure whether you want to choose the field of editing. And of course, it depends on your background again. So if you have linguistic education, so probably you know how to correct most of the mistakes already. But if you write, for example, sometimes it happens that people who use English as their native language, for example, they cannot correct the mistakes in other people's works. That's why just it depends on your background and your feel for the language, of course. But it can be developed. The good news is that a feel for the language can be developed, and practice makes perfect, and you can learn how to become a good editor by practicing. So that's it. Okay, so probably if these are all the questions for today, I thank you for your attention, for taking time to taking time to listening to our presentation. And I want to invite Alice back. She will tell you about some of our vacancies which are open for now. So thank you. I'll just change the screen for a bit.
Hi guys, I'm back. Actually, I have also a small tip for you, a hint actually to how make a good editing, perform good editing. As at a certain stage, I usually have access to the samples of our applicants, which to edit the sample is actually our second stage of our hiring procedure, and I'll be talking about it several minutes later. As of now, I would like to pay the attention of those of you who are interested in the opportunity of becoming an editor with us. Let me just scroll the presentation to my part. Hope you actually liked Natalie's part. I suppose it was really, really informative. Yes, as within Jobs for Editors, we have 2 position openings. However, the hiring season for one of the positions, specifically talking about regular editors position, was recently closed, but yet you still can apply, and then you will be offered to be waitlisted. So it means you'll be contacted by the recruiter who's in charge of this position. Therefore, you will never miss the upcoming hiring season. So if you like the position, you can still apply. Yeah, the second position I'm going to tell you about is managing editor, the position I'm actually in charge of. As we can see, both of the positions are related to editing in English, but there is a great difference between these 2 jobs. First of all, regular editors only perform editing, like no extra tasks. And managing editors, for instance, they are like actually teachers, coordinators, or editors to a few writers. So they supervise writers and monitor their writing performance in general. So you'll be teaching and tutoring them how to improve their techniques in writing if you choose this position. Regular editors, as you can see, is according to the table, they have absolutely no work schedule. So you can work whenever and wherever you prefer. As to managing editors, we require them to work at least 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. But managing editors set the working days and hours themselves. If to talk about working days, it means that you can work during the usual weekends and then to make a gap during the business days. And if we talk about working hours, as managing editors are the one who set the deadlines for their writers to submit their written texts, you'll be able to set the deadlines as according to your preferred working time. It means you can work during your daytime or even nighttime. So that's up to you. And this is the kind of a flexibility this position offers. As we are interested in long-term cooperation for both of the positions, we have a set of orders to be completed on a monthly basis. And the numbers for regular editors is 20 orders per month and 80 orders for managing editors. As it can be seen, the monthly income mainly depends on the percentage for each completed order. It means that we did not count the monthly income on an hourly basis. Simply, the more orders you complete on a monthly basis, the higher income may be. So the more effort you put in it, the higher the salary will be. But, for instance, managing editors also have a fixed salary. This is like a flat fee, which relates to the teaching and managerial part of a job. As a manager, you'll be responding to some kind of queries or requests for assistance from your writers. And this is a part which is also paid. Next, then regular editors teach no one. There is no teaching part of or aspect of this job. Therefore, managing editors can fully realize and use their teaching potential. So if you feel like you're more a teacher and you would like to pass your knowledge to someone, it's a great position for you. Next, then the same, as there is no one to supervise, regular editors do no evaluation of author's process, and managing editors do, obviously. However, for both of the positions, we have an onboarding course. This is mainly like an educational period for our new editors. During this period, our freelancers study different presentations on formatting styles we follow, simply editing, or grammar standards we follow. Also, managing editors simply learn how to perform actual work. It means that we do not actually require our applicants to have any kind of managerial previous experience. So if it's also an option for you, you would like to get some managerial experience, that's a great position for you. And there are some more perks of becoming a managing editor with jobs for editors. For the list is the urgent deadlines, as managing editors do not deal with urgent deadlines like 24 hours or less. No, never. The shortest deadline is 3 days, and the longest one is up to 2 weeks, so you can take your time and work comfortably. The next one is a paid vacation. Unlike regular editors, managing editors have 18 days yearly of a paid vacation. So, also a plus. Next is, it was described, unlike regular editors, managing ones have a fixed salary. So in case you cope with the required minimum of orders on a monthly basis, you'll definitely have a certain amount of money paid for sure and fixed. Also, the last perk is managing editors have their own support. It means each managing editor, the teacher or editor, they have their personal managers. I call them simply supervisors. The main task of a supervisor is to help new managing editors getting used to the working, getting used to work, getting used to the system, how to perform work, like any questions which you may have while performing actual work, then all can be addressed to the supervisors. The same as any kind of issues you may face, the same. They are your personal support, and any situation you need help, you can address any kind of queries to them. Yes. As far as I can see, there are a few questions. Thanks for those. Okay, I see. I've already done the sample test, which was very difficult. I failed. Sorry for that. They said I can do this in 3 months again. Yes, for each applicant, we actually provide second, third, fourth, and fifth, and extra chances, like however, how many you want. But there is a certain limitation of the period, the number of times you can apply within a certain period. And yes, for you, it means that if it was stated that in 3 months, yes, you are welcome to get back to us in 3 months, and you'll get another chance to pass this test. Okay. Good. Another one. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Can we start as an editor and then after experience is gained, can I move on with managing editor's position? Yes, that's actually a great chance all our editors are provided with, because when you feel that you're already, I don't know, you're already proficient with the job, you would like to have some changes in a positive way, probably you have a passion to passing your knowledge to someone else, we do provide our freelance editors, the regular editors, to become our managing editors. So that's absolutely possible. Also, I remember the question of one of the attendees about the test. The test was meant the second stage test. I mean, the editing of a sample. So what do you need in order to pass this test? Actually, as this is a kind of a very practical part, you simply need a lot of practice. I would simply advise you to visit the website I used, like the grammarly.com. Make some writing yourself. The website then will highlight the mistakes you made, and then you should simply Google those mistakes so you can learn. This is a way you can improve in this regard. Also, you'll need to understand how to work, how to change the awkwardnesses within the text. As writers who managing editors, for example, supervise, they are freshers within their writing careers, and they do a lot of mistakes. Their knowledge within the standards of writing are quite very poor, and you'll be the guide for them. So you need to know those standards yourself. Also, I'll get back to the tip I've promised you to tell. It is related to using the track changes mode. This is the mode we require our freelancers to use, as this is the way the changes can be seen within the text. So especially freshers, they do not sometimes see the typos or extra spaces left after using this tool when editing. So the tip is simply turn off the mode, reread the text, and simply proofread it. Make sure that no extra spaces, there are no those typos or anything like that. Also, another tip for you, basically regarding the sample task of a managing editors, is the feedback for the writer and those comments. As managing editors, as they are teachers, of course, they have to explain the reasons for the changes they make within the pieces of writing. And all of the all of the comments you leave, they have to explain the reasons for the changes. Some of them have to be supported with the rules, because this is the main source our writers use in order to improve their writing techniques. So you have to show them the way and the source they can use in order to improve. So not strict critique is required, but the comments are supposed to be informative, and not simply change this into this, add this or delete this, but explain the reason, make it understandable, as most of the writers, to most of the writers, English is actually also their second language. Therefore, it takes a great amount of time for them probably to translate your comments to themselves. Yes. So hope you find the tips useful. Make your track changes mode off and back on in order to proofread your text when applying for the position. Thank you all for the time devoted to our webinar. Thanks, and for, I don't know, simply thank you a lot. We've put a lot of effort in this presentation, and you're welcome to follow us in our social nets, like those LinkedIn and Facebook. Those links will be clickable within the presentation. And also, if you're interested in applying for the position, simply visit our website, jobsforeditors.com, and submit your CVs. Thanks for the night. Thanks for your time and your attention. Have a great day there, and bye-bye.